Do you find it hard to discipline your teens effectively? And is it sometimes a struggle to get your teens to improve their behavior and make better choices? If so, in this video, I'll show you the best way to discipline your teenager. This approach doesn't involve punishing your teens harshly or removing their privileges. It works for the average teenager, and it also works for difficult and defiant teenagers. It's also simple to implement. Here it is. The most effective way to discipline your teens is to use natural consequences. You've probably heard of natural consequences before, but there's more to it than you might think, so hear me out. Natural consequences are what happens as a result of a person's actions without any intervention by an external party. For instance, when you stand in the rain, you get wet. When you don't eat for a long time, you get hungry. When you forget to bring your jacket out with you in winter, you feel cold. These are all examples of natural consequences. When you use natural consequences with your teens, you're simply allowing them to face the consequences of their actions and choices without bailing them out. Using this approach, your teens will learn from their mistakes and they'll make better choices in the future. I'm Daniel Wong, and I specialize in helping teens to thrive. Now let's imagine a situation where your teenage son is playing a video game in his room at 7:30 p.m. Family dinner time is always at 7:30, so you tell him that it's time for dinner. Even though he says he'll come for dinner, he doesn't come out of his room until 2 hours later. He walks over to you and asks for the portion of dinner you kept aside for him, since you always keep a portion of food for him. But this time, you tell him calmly that dinner ended 1.5 hours ago. You didn't save any food for him because you had explained to him earlier that same day that this is what you would do if he came to dinner late. He then opens the fridge and realizes that there's nothing to eat except peanut butter. He gets frustrated and complains about the situation, but you maintain your composure. He proceeds to eat some peanut butter for dinner. What has just happened? You've allowed your teenager to experience the natural consequences of his behavior. Here's one more example. Your teenage daughter goes on a shopping spree and buys clothes, makeup, and shoes. She then realizes that she's run out of money for the month. But she really wants to buy a concert ticket because there's a concert that all her friends are going to. She makes a request that you give her next month's allowance early so that she can get the concert ticket today. In this situation, I encourage you to firmly but calmly say to her, "I'm sorry, I can't do that, but you will get your allowance on the first day of next month as usual." Once again, the natural consequences have played out for your teenager. Natural consequences are the best way to discipline your teens. They don't involve blaming, criticizing, or scolding your teens. When your teens experience natural consequences, resist the urge to lecture them or point out their mistakes. The natural consequences have already taught your teens the lesson they need to learn. Any further lectures or criticism from you will actually make the natural consequences less effective. I'm a parent of 3 children myself, so I know that parents feel a strong urge to protect and rescue their children. But allowing your teens to experience the natural consequences of their actions is one of the most loving things you can do. It will help them to take full responsibility for their choices and their life. If you're finding this video helpful so far, please click the like button. And please subscribe to my YouTube channel so you don't miss out on future videos about helping teens to thrive. Quick question. What have you tried doing to discipline your teenager? Leave a comment below to let me know your answer. Now here's something to take note of. There are times when you should step in and prevent natural consequences from occurring. These situations are when your teen would be in physical danger, when someone else would be in physical danger, or when the natural consequence would encourage your teen to repeat the negative behavior. For example, let's say that your teenage son is frequently disruptive in class. He often makes inappropriate jokes and interrupts the teacher. The natural consequence of this behavior is that your son gets lots of negative attention. But he actually enjoys this negative attention because it gives him a sense of power. So the natural consequence is actually encouraging him to continue being disruptive in class. This illustrates why natural consequences don't work 100% of the time. In some situations, you may need to use logical consequences instead, even though natural consequences are preferred in general. What's the difference between natural consequences and logical consequences? Natural consequences happen without interference from the parents. On the other hand, logical consequences are relevant outcomes designed by parents to address the teen's negative behavior in a constructive way. Whenever possible, logical consequences should be planned out and determined ahead of time. Ideally, your teens should be aware of these logical consequences so they won't be shocked or angry when the consequences are enforced. At this point, you might be thinking, is a logical consequence the same thing as a punishment? The answer is no. Logical consequences are used in a respectful way, and they're always directly related to the negative behavior. In contrast, punishments typically involve an element of shame. Punishments are often unrelated to the specific mistake that the teenager has made. Here's an example. One Friday night, your teenage daughter gets home 1 hour after her curfew. A punishment would be to take away her phone for a week. A logical consequence would be to make her curfew earlier for the rest of the month. Here's one more example of a logical consequence. Your teenage son is kicking a soccer ball around in the front yard one day. He kicks the ball really hard and accidentally breaks your neighbor's window. A couple of logical consequences would be for him to personally apologize to your neighbor and to pay for the window to be repaired. If you want to use logical consequences to discipline your teens, the recommended framework involves following these 3 R's: respectful, related, and reasonable. Respectful refers to the logical consequences being enforced in a way that respects your teen's dignity. Related refers to logical consequences being directly related to the negative behavior. And reasonable refers to the severity of the logical consequences being proportional to the negative behavior. If you apply these 3 R's, the logical consequences are far more likely to have their intended effect, which is to help your teens learn from their mistakes without feeling resentful or bitter toward you in the long run. So whether you're using natural consequences or logical consequences, don't enforce them in a mean-spirited way. Remember, you're not trying to punish or shame your teens into behaving better. That approach never works. Instead, you're trying to guide and coach your teens toward the right path so they can make good decisions independently, which is why natural consequences and logical consequences are the best way to discipline your teenager. I have a question. Is it hard to get your teenager to listen to you? If so, check out this free quick action guide I've written. It's entitled 10 Proven Ways to Get Your Teenager to Listen to You. Visit daniel-wong.com/guide to download the guide. Make sure to put all the letters in lowercase. I've also included the download link in the description. And if you haven't seen this other video about how to ensure that your teen never rebels, you'll want to check it out. In the video, you'll learn the simple approach that's guaranteed to stop your teen from being rebellious. Watch this video next.